Yeah, I can feel it in the air. The southern plains heading into another drought. And that's due to the presence of the subtropical ridge, and you can see it here on this radar-derived precipitation map showing the percentage we are from normal over the past 7 days. So over the past week it has been bone dry south of the Red River in Texas. You can see San Antonio, Houston, Dallas are all hurting for precipitation, although, you know, we did come out of a wet June. But up in the Central Plains, man, they are really getting a lot of precip, and even up in Wisconsin and Minnesota. And it continued dry out there in the western U.S. and little spots of dry areas around Missouri down into the Carolinas and eastern Georgia. Let's check out the weather map, starting with the southwestern U.S. We see a heat low in Arizona up to the Las Vegas area, and temperatures running about what we would expect this time of year. We've got high pressure out on the Central Plains and a little bit of a dry line there in the Permian Basin of Texas. This is all very characteristic of July, so let's look at this satellite picture to look at the real details. I feel like this is usually the best place to start in the summertime, and indeed we can see a massive increase in thunderstorm activity across Colorado, and you wouldn't really expect that looking at the surface chart. I mean, yeah, we do see kind of a old stationary front in that area, but that's something that does happen quite often in that region. So what might be going on? Upper level disturbance? No, not really. The thunderstorm region is right there, and we see a tiny bit of shortwave ridging, and any trough that could kick it off would be way back there. How about the moisture? This is precipitable water anomaly, and you can see that the moisture is above normal. We've had moisture flux into that region from New Mexico and maybe even Kansas and the Texas Panhandle. You know, we've had kind of a southwest or southeast flow through that area, so that might have brought some moisture back into the mountainous regions. And as a result, we'll take a look at those skew-ts, and you know, we do expect to see inverted V's this time of year. But that looks a little bit less like an inverted V. Looks like there is some moisture in the low levels and very steep lapse rates. And, you know, this does happen a lot in Colorado as we get later in the season. That moisture works its way into the Rockies, and we get that increase in thunderstorm activity as the summer goes on. Same thing in Arizona, where they're getting some convection along the Mogollon Rim. Monsoon season is starting to get active in that region. Out in Kansas, yeah, we do see some of that flat, stable-looking stratocumulus showing transverse banding right there. And that's because we're back behind that cold front, which is located about right there. So when you do see that transverse banding, you know, it looks very distinctive from streets. It looks kind of pancaked. That tells you usually you're back in the cold air, so you're either back in some outflow from overnight, or you're back in a cold air mass. And in this case, it is the latter. And then down in Texas, we do see some convective debris. You might have seen a tiny shred of that on the opening video. I think there was at least one cloud, and that's where that would come from. And it looks very clear out there in California and Nevada. Got that hot pattern in place with 90s in the San Joaquin Valley, and the temperature is continuing to rise since that is the West Coast, and it's about 1:30 p.m. there. In the northwestern U.S., looks like yesterday. I think you could probably take yesterday's video and apply it to this. Cold air advection cumulus out in Montana, and pretty much fair and dry in the deserts of Washington and Oregon. Surface map is showing that, you know, they are kind of warm in that region. Lots of 80s and even a couple 90s. That would be, I'm not sure what that station is, but I think that's OMAC, and that almost looks like some downslope flow coming in from the north from British Columbia. And they do have their own little heat low, and you can see that right there across the dry terrain of Washington. And then as we go eastward into Montana, we become more under the influence of that occlusion that you can see up there in Manitoba off the top right of the screen. And very cool temperatures, 60s, with westerly wind in that region. In the northeastern U.S., pretty clear evidence of a baroclinic system moving through Illinois and Wisconsin. You can see all that mid and upper level cloud associated with that. And then in the northeastern U.S. proper, looks like the flow is kind of light and variable. Lots of low-level moisture helping to generate some cumulus clouds. And you can see the flow turning kind of southerly out there in the Buffalo and Rochester area. A little bit too dry for convection down in Virginia and Pennsylvania, but as you go south we pick up more of those deep convective elements. And there's the surface map. I had to correct that so you can just ignore that little warm front. The actual warm front looks like it's around from Rockford up to Milwaukee and then up to Lake Huron, dividing these warm 80s from 70s up to the north. And in behind that warm front looks like some high pressure coming in. And I would say it's probably safe to say that this is a stationary front, soon to be low pressure as that system approaches there from Missouri. That's going to work its way up the front, kind of like a zipper, and basically convert the front into a cold front, which will sweep through Chicago, Michigan, and South Bend, Indianapolis as it moves eastward. The surface map in the southeastern U.S. shows low pressure around the Atlanta region. And this looks to be the remains of that weak front that's been in the area over the past few days. I think it's finally dying out because we can see the temperatures and dew points on the south side are very close to those on the north side in Tennessee and Kentucky. The moisture axis, that appears to be out in East Texas, maybe into Louisiana. That's where we find the mid-70s dew points, and maybe a little bit more of that in Alabama proper up to the Memphis area. But in Texas, we see that those upper 70s dew points we had on Saturday and Sunday have burned off, and we're down to our normal upper 60s and low 70s. And the heat wave has abated in Texas. You can see 90s across Fort Worth to Abilene, up to Childress, and that's where they were closing in on 110 back on Monday. So definitely some relief there. And then up in the northeastern U.S., it looks like we're under the influence of a segment of that Bermuda high, whatever high pressure is off the Atlantic coast, driving in these easterly components and giving us kind of a mild pattern. And there's the satellite showing the active thunderstorm activity in MCS over southern Alabama. So we probably want to go back and correct that map. And that's kind of approximate, but I think that pretty much fits the data. And if you wanted to go in even closer to that, you could probably find a meso high, probably somewhere right in there. Yeah, that certainly looks higher than anything to the south or southeast or to the north. So that's what's helping to propagate those showers. And we would expect that to kind of die off towards the late afternoon and early evening. Still, though, you know, I might be a little bit nervous if I was flying into Atlanta sometime after, say, around dark or just after. I don't think it'll make it up there, but this time of year, certainly a possibility. In Florida, yeah, they're looking pretty active. Looks like kind of a wet day there at Disney World. One thing that's really lame about this time of year is you have to run the air conditioners all the time in this part of the country. And that gets expensive. One of our last bills was near $500. So when can we expect a pattern shift? That's what I'm wondering. So why don't we take a look at the map and see what is coming. So what we're looking at here is the morning GFS run showing the conditions at 12Z. That's going to be this morning. And the best way to characterize that is a progressive flow. Looks like maybe a little bit of blocking there in Quebec. They've had that heat wave going for quite a while. And so the flow kind of rounds that bend. And yeah, you know, let me show you something else. Check out this chart. Yeah, this shows that occlusion up there near Churchill, Manitoba. And what's most notable is this warm sector. You can see temperatures are as high as 81 degrees at Inuvik, which is on the northern tip of Quebec there, 81. Normally they see about 50 to 52 for a high. I don't think that this is a record, but this is way up there, and they've got 37 degrees for a blast furnace effect. And part of that warmth is due to the flow coming right off that hot landmass. So, I don't know, with that warm sector continuing to kind of wrap around, I think we may see more record heat tomorrow in that region, so we'll kind of keep an eye on that. But back to the maps, you know, it is a progressive pattern, and we got this very strong occlusion in Manitoba. The subtropical high looks like that is centered on West Texas, right about there. Looks like a secondary subtropical high right about there. And I'm going by the center of the closed 591 contour there. So let's run that forward and see how things progress. Looks like the subtropical high just kind of stays in place across North Texas all the way out towards Georgia. So it'll be kind of a hot period, maybe kind of hot and dry through that region going into the weekend. Looks like towards next week, getting into Sunday and Monday, not a whole lot of change. Maybe a slight shift either way. Looks like maybe it moves into the Nashville area, Tennessee, and another segment kind of building around the Four Corners area. Okay, yeah, I think that's probably a significant change there. So that opens up this area of slightly lower heights, and I would expect to see a little bit of an increase in thunderstorm activity along the dry line. Probably be a weakly sheared environment. You can see with that upper level flow, mostly up to the north. We're not going to see severe storms on the dry line, but they will be, you know, your typical summer storms going up in that area. Then let's see, getting to the end of next week. This is about a week to, see, about 7 to 10 days out. Looks like the subtropical high mostly centered on the Carolinas. Now I think, yeah, there probably is a little bit of closed contour going all the way up to Arizona. No distinct center. So it's just kind of drifting around, I think. And really what we should be doing is going up to 200 millibars and kind of cross-check it. 200 millibars, that's going to be the top of the troposphere. So we'll start it on the current conditions. I'd really like to see something with the wind, with actual wind data. This doesn't give us the wind, but I think if we go to the closer national map, I think it does give us the wind. Yeah, so keep that in mind when you're using these charts. This will help give us a very accurate position on that subtropical ridge. So going forward, let's see, for tomorrow morning, that's a good place to start. Looks like the subtropical high is centered on Oklahoma. See that anticyclonic pattern there. And another center over Virginia. Okay, that sort of matches up with the 500 millibar chart and looks like a low over the, I guess it'd be Apalachicola, somewhere in that area. And just moving that forward. Yeah, it looks like it kind of drifts around, maybe east to Tennessee. There's that subtropical high there. Another center over the Chihuahua area. So it does kind of break up, and you can see Texas coming under this easterly flow, kind of an easterly wave coming through. So yeah, there could be a slight increase in thunderstorm activity along the coast going into Friday and Saturday, so I'll keep an eye on that. And there goes that easterly wave heading into West Texas, the main subtropical high over Tennessee for Sunday. And then in the middle of next week, yeah, it kind of looks like that high is kind of parked over Tennessee, and Texas is under this kind of vague low pressure region, kind of a subtropical low somewhere in that area there, and maybe a secondary one there. So I think things may be a little unsettled on the coast where the heights are lower. And let's see, going into the end of next week. Yeah, I think that subtropical high does back off from the central U.S. There's one center in Virginia, another center in Arizona, so the heat is coming back to Phoenix. And then we're kind of in this trophy area in Texas, so maybe a slight increase in thunderstorm activity as we go into next week. And that'll mean a break in the heat also. And the model picking up on this low here, that could be a tropical system coming in from the east. Let's check that out. Yeah, I guess maybe it's bringing a tropical storm or hurricane in. Dropping down to the surface there. Let's bring that forward. Yeah, and I'm taking a quick peek down there at the Gulf for Friday, seeing if that easterly wave's doing anything. Looks like there is a bit of thunderstorm activity down there for Friday. A little bit on Saturday, not too much. And then going into next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you can see little showers here and there. Gets a little active around Thursday off the western Gulf Coast. And then we'll take a look out in this region here. I think that's where it's trying to bring in that tropical system. Yeah, there it is right there. 31st. Is that the same one? 29th, 30th, 31st. Yeah, that is a tropical storm or a tropical disturbance, but I think that's different from what I saw on that earlier chart. Yeah, I don't know if this is all boring you, but this is the process of analysis you're getting to kind of look in on that. No, this is a separate system. This comes in around the 24th, and then it comes into Florida around the 25th. Yeah, this is a separate system. Then it goes into the area south of Brownsville around the 30th. Okay, that's an upper level system. Yeah, there's the 24th, so that upper level system is right there. 25th, that would be coming into Florida. And then 30th, it would be coming into this area here. So, yeah, that is some sort of upper level feature moving with the tropical easterlies. For our astronomy calendar, the big feature is Comet Neowise. It's been a while since we've had a visible comet like this. Best time to see that is going to be shortly after sunset, maybe about 15 to 20 minutes after the sky has darkened a little bit. And you want to look above and to the right in the constellation of Lynx. So check that out, see if you can pick it out. It probably will be a little bit subdued. I don't know if it has much brightness, but I'm going to go out and check it out, see if I see anything. And maybe y'all can too. The Allegheny Plateau. Where is it? And what is it? This is a feature found in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and part of West Virginia. Let's take a look at a map. Well, you know, we don't see it very well. It's going to be in this region. We need a different kind of map to really pick that feature out. Let's switch to a pure topographic map. And there we go. I don't know if you can pick that out, but Ohio is located right about there. You have Kentucky, which is off to the bottom left. And then right in here you have West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. So the Allegheny Mountains, that's going to be this range right in here, extending from West Virginia, the eastern part of West Virginia, up into Pennsylvania. And then we find out to the west the Allegheny Plateau. It's a very low plateau. Average elevation is probably about 1,000 feet. But it is an area that's kind of raised from the surrounding areas of Kentucky and Ohio. And it's a very hilly region too. And you can see that Pittsburgh is right in the middle of that. Now there is a corresponding area. We're not going to have this in any of the geography moments, but it's going to be the Cumberland Plateau. And we're not going to carry it because it's kind of an extension of the Allegheny Plateau. It's going to be this region right in here. And then Here's the Cumberland Mountains. And these are kind of a similar thing right there. You can see the elevations in Tennessee between Nashville and Knoxville. They're kind of raised. This is terrain up at about 1,500 to 2,000 feet. Any effects on the weather? Maybe not a whole lot. Maybe the higher elevations helping to create lower temperatures during the winter, during some winter weather situations. But the mountains themselves, of course, they're very important as far as blocking in weak weather patterns. So, yeah, you're going to hear every now and then about the Alleghenies and the Cumberland region. There you go. Now you know what it is. And that'll do it for our Wednesday edition of Meteorology Lab, Forecast Lab. I appreciate you all watching, and hopefully we'll see you all again tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.